Good evening, Laredo. Welcome to another show of the Texas Border Chronicles. This is a community affairs program with local community leaders talking about issues affecting Laredo. Welcome to the show, Juan.
Thank you.
Of course, Juan is our colleague who gets us a lot of the stories and was able to keep us informed about what's going on. Exactly 1 week ago, Juan, as you know, Saturday night, literally 1 week ago, we received notice that we got the first water boil notice from the city of Laredo, saying that the whole city was in fact under that notice. And we got the notice. Yeah, we're still part of it, but the thing is that the city, and it was also part, was the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, who was also part of it, who apparently found some samples that were not, that's creating the possibility of creating bacteria of some type. Needless to say, it created a panic in this community to some degree, because you could just notice it. I went on a Saturday night to the local HEB store in Walmart, and there was no water. So obviously, and that was an hour within the time of the show. Of course, other people didn't find out about it till the next morning, when in fact the city of Laredo did get together, did have a staff meeting, did in fact meet, the mayor came forward and began talking about the issue. But it did catch a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, it's already a week ago, and the things are in the same.
Yeah,
they haven't found any solution yet. They're
Right.
trying to, to explain all over what happened.
Right.
But
there was a meeting this weekend.
yes, it was on Wednesday, night, when the city council was there, and a lot of people wasn't.
They showed up and they were not
showed up
happy
and
about it.
they were, upset.
Upset about it. You were able to pick up a video on it.
Yes, actually, I have 2 interviews.
Great. Well, let's look at that video. We'll continue talking about it right on the other side.
I think they are deflecting the responsibility, and they're finding any which way to basically continue to deceive us. They're telling us that they're looking for remedies, but for the moment, we actually do not have a relief in sight. They're saying maybe 14 days. They do not know the answers. They're not giving us clear answers. They're pretty much in the dark, the same way the public is. They're not telling us when they're going to fix the problem. And I think that the solutions that they are offering, basically they have no idea as to what the solutions are.
I think another issue that isn't clear is why the boil water notices aren't being issued, even when the chlorine levels are falling below 0.5, and they can't stay at the 0.5. So what's the decision making process where that notice is not being issued as per state law?
A good interview, Juan. What else did you find out?
Well, as of now, already the city already left the boiling water alert.
Notice already. Yeah, they picked it up.
Only for the north side.
Right.
And still
it's the north side and the west side of town. And however, at least half the city is still under that notice. There still seems to be some anger out there in the community and some misunderstanding about what happened.
They don't know what's really happened with this big issue that is affecting a lot of people, a lot of restaurants.
Well, you go to downtown or certain areas of the city in the west side, in the downtown area, and there are restaurants that are not providing water or coffee or even water or fountain service.
That's right.
We'll be right back, and we'll continue with the show with one of our councilmen who's ready to talk to us a little bit about this problem.
Serious car collisions require personal attention, an attorney who's experienced and can finish the case without referring it out. If you are involved in a serious car collision, call Joey Theas, because serious car collisions require a serious and effective attorney.
Welcome back to the show. We do have our councilman, Navarrete Pahlavi, for being here, and I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, because it's important that we get out as much information as possible.
Definitely, and that's what we're here for. We certainly want the public to know what is going on. As you know, it's been literally 1 week ago tonight when the public found out about this boil water notice. Um, what has the city done since then? We can talk about the details, but right now I'd like
Sure.
to know what the status is.
Well, I mean, it started off with Saturday. You know, as the information's getting out to the public, it's getting out to us right around the same time, and so staff at the time had been working for a couple of days with TCEQ to try to remedy the issue, and the issue was that the water had low chlorine levels, no bacteria, but low chlorine levels, and
For the record, could you tell them, or at least the public, I mean, what is the levels that we're talking about?
Well, the levels is that the TCQ expects the water to have levels of 0.5.
0.05.
0.05 in the water, and they were dropping down to around 2, sometimes a little below, sometimes above. But what TCEQ told us,
You're talking about chlorine.
chlorine. What TCEQ told us at our council meeting this week was that the issue that they found was just that it was just fluctuating too much, that the chlorine levels were just fluctuating too much. There was no bacteria that they found, but whenever chlorine levels drop, there's always that risk that there could end up being bacteria, even though none was found.
Right. In fact, that was we're talking about E. coli and chloroform.
Exactly.
The two bacteria that we're talking about. Of course, you had a meeting this past week, and I'm sure there was a lot of anxiety. There's been a lot of anxiety in this community concerning this issue.
Well, there is, and so I guess going back to the first question so Saturday staff was working. They had been working for a couple of days to remedy the issue, to get the chlorine levels up. TCQ, because of the fluctuation, said no, you need to send out the boil water notice. So the boil water notice was sent out on Saturday. Initially, it was sent out for one part of the city. And the reason is that staff at the water department knew that the city had isolated 2 different water systems. And basically what that means is that even though all the water pipes are connected, they're shut-off valves. So the way that the city has run the water system is that one part, the central, the east, and the south, are in one system, the north and the west, and the northwest are in a different system. So they tried to show TCEQ, hey, look, we have these 2 systems. Let's just limit it to one part of the community. TCEQ said, no, we need to send it out for the entire community. So that's when it went out Saturday night. Overnight and throughout the morning, all of our state representatives, our state senator, were working with TCEQ. Our staff was working with TCEQ, and we're trying to show them, look, even though we agree that there's chlorine levels fluctuating in one part of the system, the other part isn't. So by about, I guess, 1:30 in the afternoon is when we received notice. And I was there with staff. They had been working all night. They had been working all morning. They were there at the utilities department remedying that.
Right.
And so they were.
But part of it was because they couldn't provide the maps or proof that in fact you had 2 different systems.
Right. So once TCEQ was satisfied, then they said you can lift it for the north and western
west side.
portions. And then the plan of action was to do a flush. And every year they do 2 flushes of the system. And so they decided to move it up to this week. And so this week, early in the week, on Monday, the systems were flushed. Both of them were flushed. And with a different type of chlorine. Right. And so they've changed the type of chlorine that they're using, but both systems were flushed, and so that's why earlier in the week people were tasting or smelling chlorine
in their water.
And in their
even
water.
on the north side.
Yes.
And even if they had good water, you still flush the north side as well.
Right, because it was going to be done 2 weeks anyway, and so it may as well move it up. I mean, considering everything that was going on, it was better to move it up, and also people could feel better, could feel safer. And so I think early in the week people did smell that chlorine, and maybe even people that are hypersensitive to it, their eyes might have felt a little burning in their eyes. And this happens every year, but sometimes people just don't notice it, or they may notice it and just realize it has a little bit of more chlorine.
Still, there's no danger of any bacteria.
Well, right. So during the testing process of this past week, there was either before or after there was no bacteria in the system. It was always that the issue was low chlorine levels that were in the system.
Well, and then you had your meeting last week. Did you resolve anything?
Well, I mean, we had that meeting for a couple of reasons. One is we wanted the public to get to hear as much information as possible, to get out as much information as possible, and we did. And we wanted TCQ to be there, our staff to be there, so that we could get some answers. Right. So a lot of what I'm telling you is because of these meetings, and we're able to hear directly from TCQ, we're able to hear from our staff. One of the things that TCQ representative said was that they had they had confidence in that the city's 150 tests that they're doing monthly were being done professionally, that everybody is certified with the city to conduct the test. They didn't have any, they didn't think there was any foul play. And they also said that there was no bacteria found, that it was these low chlorine levels. So they confirmed.
We're going to take a short break at this time. We're going to continue with our discussion with Councilman Pahlavi.
Serious car collisions require personal attention, an attorney who's experienced and can finish the case without referring it out. If you are involved in a serious car collision, call Joey Theas, because serious car collisions require a serious and effective attorney.
Welcome back to the show. We do have Councilman Navarrete Pahlavi, who's here. He's actually the mayor pro tem for the city. Is that correct?
That's right.
So really, when the mayor's not available, you're the person next in line to basically handle a lot of the city issues.
Yes, that's true.
Which, by the way, you did. I saw you on Facebook on Sunday, obviously dealing with this issue, and I congratulate you for that. Certainly, but I think that there was a lot of on Saturday night and even Sunday morning, there seemed to have been a sense of panic or a sense of anxiety that occurred in this community. Do you think that this could have been handled differently?
I think it could have been handled better. In these situations, what we can do, what we should have done, is we can go into emergency mode, and when you do that, then you have one person who becomes the voice of the city and who sort of leads and helps with the decision making, and that should have been our fire chief, and that's the way that it should have been handled because of the training. It wasn't handled that way. Eventually, fire chief was brought in, but initially it wasn't handled that way, and I think that would have been good because, at the time, there were a lot of different messages being delivered. They were for the most part accurate, but the issue is because they were being delivered by different mediums. They were being delivered at different times. One person would see something, that was, let's say online, that was posted at 4 p.m., which was different from something that was posted in the morning, but they were still going by what they saw in the morning, and so there wasn't that coordination.
And I understand that. However, you also have to consider a lot of them are senior citizens and people who have medical issues and young people, and not everyone has access to the media. So, like you said, they were getting different messages at different times and getting confusing responses as well.
Sure.
How do you feel, though, that it just seems that it could have been handled better, but obviously there seems to have been a history of problems with the utilities office, or it seems to have been issues there. Is that one of those things that the city is looking at, or?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we had TCQ at our meeting, and they presented, and from what we could tell, the problems that the city had generally were very similar to what happens with water systems in other communities. So it wasn't that different. What happened is that leading up to this, in the weeks leading up to this, is when the chlorine levels dropped, and our utilities director earlier in the year asked for more budget. People were incensed because they said, well, water rates are going up. But the reason he was asking for it was, he said, our system is not adequate. We need to update the system. And one of the reasons that he said we needed to update the system, and he reiterated again this week, is to be able to flush the system more often. Because what happens is that when the system gets flushed, then the way that it is now, they have to turn off some water at some places.
And
he says that's inadequate. He said, and that's inadequate. We need to be able to flush more often, more than twice a year, to keep the chlorine levels up. And so I think that one of the I expect, what we did was we asked for basically an independent audit at this council meeting to determine if that is the case, because that's what we're being told. But we asked for an independent audit, and so that was ordered by council. And then the other thing was to bring in water engineers to give us a plan of action. So we want to see if that's accurate, because that's what we're being told, and that's what the public was being told at our council meeting. But I think it's important to have outsiders that are familiar with water systems to verify if that's the case, or if there's something different, and if there is a plan of action, what would that plan of action be? And do we need more flushing? Do we need more pumps? We heard a lot of different things yesterday. We need better circulation. We need less dead ends in neighborhoods and new development. So there was a lot of suggestions coming from the utility department as contributors and from TCEQ as well. But we'd like to hear from someone else.
And what happened? Did they approve? The council approved to keep on, working on with the private company and all that?
Yes, they did. And the way what we proposed as a council and was approved by the council was three things. The first thing was to have an independent investigation by an independent investigator. That independent investigator would tell us and report to the public what it is that happened in September, right? What happened in September, right? What led up to it, and if events. Previous events had anything to do with it, from months earlier, then they could tell us that too, right? So that's one. Two is to have the engineer come in with a plan of action for the future. So one is to look back, what happened. Two is look forward, because that's the most important thing. We can't change the past, but we need to learn from the past. We need to know what happened, right? So moving forward, we get that engineer for a plan of action. And then the third thing was for staff to come back to council with recommendations of how people could be compensated for.
Which takes us right, which is the other issue.
For everything.
The issue is the issue of compensation. I don't know if it's a legal issue or not, but certainly it's an issue that needs to be looked at as well. Of course, there were a lot of seniors who didn't know about it till Sunday morning because many of them were not available. The thing is that it just seems that the rollout was really not good, and had it been done better, we could have avoided much of this misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Bali, Councilman Bali. We'll be right back. We'll continue with our roundtable discussion about the water situation in Laredo.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Fuentes. Let me show you what my brother and dad can do. They have a lot of experience creating videos that you will enjoy for years to come. As my dad always says, if it's not on video, it didn't happen.
Welcome back to the panel show. We do have a couple of guests here who are new to the show. I want to introduce you to Paul Vitron, who also has a very good program on his show is named Gloves Off with Paul Vitron. It's on Facebook. I recommend highly that you check it out whenever you get a chance. He publishes a post every 2-3 days on Facebook. And of course, we do have our Associate Municipal Court Judge, Nathan Shu, who's also present with us as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
And of course, we do have our panelist, Mr. Juan Rodriguez, our reporter.
Yeah.
Now, you've had a chance to listen to what our councilmen have done, and the mayor and TCQ, and of course, you've seen the response from the public the last week. I'll start with you, Paul. What are your thoughts about the way it was rolled out? I guess we'll start with that.
The way it was rolled out, I would divide it into two different things. I'll divide the water issue as one, and then I'll divide the mass hysteria as another. And I'll talk about the mass hysteria. I think we got a good F+ as a city for that. Why do I say that? Because everybody was out there to the point that there were fights in some of these stores. There was people trying to take other people's water. People were placed in danger to drive to San Antonio, to Pearsall, to Corpus, to Kingsville looking for water. That should not happen. Was there police presence? Towards the end. So this just shows us that we're lacking in case we ever have, God forbid, a mass
Another situation.
mass crisis, because we'll be under.
Right.
Okay? And we can talk about many other scenarios, but in this case, and just in this one, the mass hysteria was held very badly. I don't know what your all's idea was or not.
Judge, would you say that this mass hysteria that he's mentioning was really caused by the city, or was it, or the public just took it upon themselves to deal with this? I mean, or how would you see it?
Well, the problem here is with social media. Social media moves so fast, and we have to be aware that this is our time now. That something happens on social media, you have to react to it, and you have to have a rapid response team. So when
That's
you
right.
don't have a rapid
Absolutely.
response team to deal with something like that, then it just gets out of control. So what do I mean? I mean, right when something like this happens, the city government has to step in, coordinate with police force. And just this past week, we just had our National Nights Out, and I saw great solidarity with all of our law enforcement. You're talking about Constable's Office, Border Patrol, CBB, police, sheriff, so everybody was there. So it's not like those folks are not ready. They're ready. They just need someone to take command and start to have direction.
Well, how would you rate, though, Juan? You had a chance to talk to the city councilman, you talked to the mayor, you've talked to the utility director. What was your impression about their reaction?
I think that everything is just like that. I mean, there's no solution yet. I mean, as he said, maybe the hysteria, the crisis,
hysteria, the
mass
panic.
panic, and it could be worse. But I think they're taking the steps. I mean, a few low steps they've been doing, but the people are residents, mostly the ones that live on the south side, needs to be, get a solution right now.
Well,
they're talking about investigations and something else and something else. So I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen.
But there was, though, a comment made among some people, a whisper campaign or a comment, that it seems that the north sides was lifted almost within 24 hours before school started.
That's right.
And then the people from South Laredo and certain parts of town didn't have it lifted. In fact, it's lasted already a week, and they're still under the notice.
I can kind of understand where people do that, but a lot of people do not understand that we have two different water plants. And I think the way it was handled, first brought out into the public, was really how the public took it, and it just kind of like a fire in a grass field in the high wind, and it just took off. And that's where the danger was at, okay? Because if we have something that could have been controlled nicely, if somebody would have stepped up and said, wait a minute, this is going on, please do not, and that was not said until later on.
Right.
On Sunday, the next day.
I give credit to those councilmen. Some of
Sure.
them did take the step forward
Sure.
on Sunday, and they started dealing with it. However, like you said, some of them still don't have answers, but at least they started dealing with it. Are you suggesting that they should have just dealt with it since Saturday night? This is one of those things that should have gone to the city officials, and it should have been released by the mayor and the council instead of being released by TCEQ or just the staff.
I wholeheartely agree with that one. That's our local government. That's our city leaders that we look up to for support and guidance. So, and you're right. A lot of those councilmen did step up. The mayor did step up, hold press conference, and was trying to calm the people down.
Right. Well, it just seems that there's still some anger out there.
Oh, very
obviously.
much so, yes.
What we'll do is we'll continue with this discussion right after this break.
At Laredo Independent School District, we recognize September as Attendance Awareness Month. As a district recognized by the state of Texas with 14 exemplary campuses, 13 recognized campuses, a post-secondary distinction, 2 early college high schools, and 2 blue ribbon schools, LIZ is breaking new barriers every day to provide you with a strong path towards your dreams. Your daily school attendance is your first step in transforming your goals into realities. Be in school on time every day, all day.
School is where we belong! Laredo ISD is a place to be, where we are cultivating champions through education.
Welcome back to the panel. As you know, we've had an opportunity to be listening to our Councilman Roberto Valli, and of course we've had some comments on this issue. But I did want to ask you all, I'll start with you, Judge. If it hadn't been for that anonymous complaint, we wouldn't be talking about this.
We would not be talking about this. They would have their own problems. The city would work it through until they get the chlorine levels back up. I think our Mayor Pro Tem, Robert Valli, did a real good job. He was straightforward. He came out here and he gave us a plan of action. But we need to go a little bit further. We need to actually form some sort of a rapid response team that will deal with these type of emergencies. Not necessarily just water, but any other emergencies that come up in Laredo. This was a little test, and I don't think we lived up to it. So we need to look at this and learn from it.
You're absolutely right, Judge. You're absolutely right. And that rapid response team, as he said, was an emergency, goes straight to our fire chief. I think he should have been the one that should have been from the beginning dealing with the issue.
But what if no one tells the fire chief?
No, I understand.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's what
In this case,
happened.
the fire chief would have, we all know the fire chief, he would have dealt with this immediately if he had known about it.
That's why I say there's two different things. There's an issue with the water, where the chlorine levels could have been raised up if this wasn't complaint. But the other one was how it was presented to the public. And
Well,
the public took off.
The public relations was not good for the city.
We all agree on that one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the information needs to get out. The information needs to get out correctly. The information needs to get out consistently on all channels. It can't be staggered to the point where folks are, or it causes a mass hysteria, like as Paul was saying earlier.
Now, I noticed that HEB, I think they were the ones who
Donate
as
water.
Immediate
immediately
response.
responded with water. I'm just curious to know, the city ever provided water to the public, or if the city ever came up with a
Yeah,
plan
that's-
of action, a policy to help our seniors or those less fortunate? I don't know. But that's something that needs to be dealt with in the public relations. When you mentioned one was the issue of the water, the other the issue of the public. I didn't see much from the city when it came to that.
No, you're absolutely correct. But, there has to be the communication has to be the key point here.
Would it be treated differently than what happened in Rio Bravo a few years ago?
Well, we should have learned from what happened in Rio Bravo a few years ago, and that was the same exact problem. There were some problems at the plant, the water, the chlorine level, and the chloroform and the E. coli was present. There was a water boil for a while. So here, we're still at that problem. We still don't have a lifting of the ban yet, so we're going through it right now. So we should have learned from that.
Absolutely.
It was a lawsuit, actually, on Rio Bravo.
There was some
problem.
criminal activity.
They
Well,
went-
there
they
was
went
some-
all
some
over to the
other
court.
stuff that happened, yes.
What go ahead.
With this issue, maybe this thing is going to turn in a criminal investigation to find out what's
There was
going
always a
on.
possibility, depending on what they found in the audit.
Yeah.
You
So
That's what I like. That our Mayor Pro Tem said that there was going to be an independent audit. There was going to be an independent investigation company and a company of engineers that are going to kind of guide what happened and what we should do in the future. And I think if we do need to remove the staff that we have there and place it with some new ones, I think we should do that as well.
We'll see what happens. Well, I want to thank you again, Paul, for being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Judge.
for being here as well.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Judge.
I want to thank KGNS again for allowing us to do this show and the support the public has been providing us as well. Until next weekend, we hope that we add a little bit more information about this particular topic that's important to all of us in Laredo. The community is always better off when we hear more information, regardless of what sites we're in. And may you also continue to have a good weekend. God bless you.